What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more solo Morrissey, and we're returning to the Bona Drag compilation. Thank you as always to Seb. And the next track is At Amber. It's a difficult phrase to get a read on. Amber is, of course, a substance, but it's also a hue or color, and even though here our traffic signals we refer to the colors as red, yellow, and green, I do believe in some places they call the middle light, or indeed the caution it's about to turn red light, amber. So my thoughts go in that direction, that it could be about some stage and a critical or transitional one in a larger process. Of course, amber could be a place name, which would make the word at a little more clear. So yeah, in the moment I don't really know how to read the title, but I suppose the possibility of it being a place name or an indication of a point in and perhaps a smaller phase of time in a larger process are my best guesses, so I'll just have to see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Morrissey, the track is At Amber, and it's included in his compilation Bona Drag.
I'm calling you from the foyer of the Sands Hotel, where the men and the women are acquainted quite well, and the drunkards keep on drinking, and oh, my room is cold. I'm disputing the bill, I will sleep in my clothes. And you, my invalid friend, you slam the receiver when you say, if I had your limbs for a day, I would steam away. I'm calling you from the foyer of this awful hotel, where the slime and the grime gel, and I cannot, or I do not, and oh, my room is cold, and I'm envying you, never having to choose. When you say, if I had your news for a day, I would steam away. I am calling you from the foyer of the Sands Hotel. It's not low life, it's just people having a good time.
I really was hearing that organ, as well as some sonic effects that sound, keyboard or like post-production bass, like that echoic, or I don't know the right term, when a sound sounds like it's like turning inside out, or it's being closed off and then opened in the other direction. So yeah, some elements that sound, again, a bit beyond the early Smith sound. Now I get it, at this point it's multiple years after the early Smith stuff, and he's, maybe forging his own sound as distinct from the Smiths material, but there have been a number of Morrissey tunes where it feels like it could have been a Smith song, sonically speaking. But lyrically, it's fascinating. So it's the Sands Hotel. I feel like there's probably locations of that in different cities. Isn't there one in Vegas? I don't know if they would be talking about Vegas, but either way, he's talking about this terrible, or was it awful, hotel, and he's calling someone from the foyer of a hotel, and of course, now here in 2025, it's funny to talk about, hanging up a receiver because most phones that people use aren't like corded or in an old like handset receiver format. Most people have mobile phones, as I believe they are called across the pond, or cell phones, as we say here, or smartphones, I suppose, in an even more modern era. I'm indicating the like middle technology phrasing, but either way, the idea that he's talking to his invalid friend, and at first I heard that line about like limbs, and I thought he was talking about himself, but he seems to be saying like the other person is saying to him, if I had your limbs for a day, like if I could actually move and if I was fully functional, what was it, I'd like steam away or stream away? I don't know exactly what the verb was, but yeah, so like I'm not sure what's happening, but it sounds like there's a conflict between him and the person on the other end of the phone, and the other end of the phone, the person is seemingly incapable of being fully mobile or has been injured or is in, hospital somewhere. So I really don't know what's going on. But then he talks about like in the hotel there's men and women who are getting on reasonably well. I think you could read that line a couple different ways, but the drunkards are still drinking, and they're not lowlifes, they're just people having a good time. So it seems like there's a debate about more than just the narrator, Morrissey's character, and the person on the other end of the line, that there's a negative description of people around him, and maybe that relates to why he thinks it's an awful hotel, but it sounds like otherwise. It sounds like he's the one defending people's behavior around him, even if he's also describing it in a way that I guess is a implicit criticism, but again, saying they're not lowlifes, they're just folks having a good time. And maybe it's the person on the other end who's saying like, look, if I had, if I was where you are and I had limbs that worked, I'd get the hell out of there. So I really don't know what's happening, and it feels like hyper specific. It's like a snapshot of a larger implied story in time and in space. So yeah, I'm really curious what people have to say about this one lyrically and thematically. Vocally, it's Morrissey's vocals. You would never fail to identify who it is singing, but it's not his most like melismatic and flowing. It's not his most powerful or expressive. It's just a good sort of standard vocal performance from him in a way that again is easily recognizable. And as I said, there's still that sort of flowing guitar work, but also a couple other elements that sound a bit electronic or keyboard based, and especially those organ chords, which even before they were sort of isolated right at the end of the track and you could hear them more clearly and directly, I was definitely picking up on their role or function in the larger sonic atmosphere. So yeah, a cool tune. I'm especially curious about the narrative. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.